United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a roll call.
Ms. Lauer,
Present.
Dr. Powers, here. Ms. Scott, here. Mrs. Wise, Mr. Irwin,
Here.
Mrs. Lohr,
Present.
and Mrs. Killian. Present.
Tonight, we are here to hold a project and preliminary hearing on the proposed construction projects. If you are here and interested in speaking, make sure you have signed the sign-in sheets here at the front, or at the door. Make sure you include your name and address there. After a presentation by the administration and its advisors, there will be an opportunity for the public to make comments about the projects. We ask that each person limit their comments to 3 minutes and the topic be limited to the proposed projects under consideration, and that your comments are addressed to the board. The notice of this preliminary determination hearing was published as legally required December 15th, 2021 and December 27th, 2021 in the Tribune Star. The first preliminary determination hearing was held on December 27th, 2021. At this time, I'll ask Dr. Hayward to explain the purpose of the hearing.
Pursuant to Indiana Code 20-26-7-37, before a school corporation may spend more than $1 million to build, repair, or alter a school building that will be financed by lease or bonds, it must hold a public hearing at which explanations of potential value of the project to the school corporation and community are given. Similarly, pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1.1-20-3.5, a school corporation must hold 2 public hearings and adopt a resolution to preliminarily determine the issue of bonds or enter a lease for a project which has a total project cost in excess of a non-controlled project. These public hearings and the adoption of the resolutions are the very beginning of the legal process. These resolutions establish a maximum financial term for the proposed projects.
Thank you. At this time, we'll now hear again from Dr. Hayworth about the process of determining and communicating the projects to the community and the need of the project.
If it would please the board, I'm going to tilt my podium a little more this way. I'm an old history teacher, and I had my favorites. You know, whether that's Washington or whether that's Lincoln. I really didn't get into Hamilton until I got his own Broadway show. Some of you here may be FDR fans. Some may be Eugene B. Dubs fans. Some Ronald Reagan. If you're involved in education, you need to take a good look at John Adams. John Adams, first vice president, second president, helped to author the Declaration of Independence, helped negotiate the Treaty of Paris to end the Revolutionary War. But Adams also saw this. He saw education as a vehicle for the previous generation to empower future generations. That's what we're here to talk about tonight. went on to say, the whole people must take upon themselves the education of the whole people and must be willing to bear the expense of it. Tonight's discussion, in my mind, is about how our generation will empower and improve the lives of our children, our grandchildren, and their children. So we're going to talk about facilities. Anybody from North? Did that play out in your building this week?
Yes, sir.
We have issues all across our district. We are putting our finger in the dike, toe in the dike, trying to make sure that our high school facilities can meet the challenges of delivering education each and every day. Whether that's in infrastructure, or design. And if you've seen me give this presentation before, take a look at this area right here. Because if you look at North, we have that same failure of design. Discussion happens a lot when I'm out talking about facilities. Is it about upkeep, or were they just built poorly? I would say here in 2022, it really doesn't matter which. We have to do something to address our high school facilities. So we started a conversation. Actually, I think we started it a couple of times and then it got interrupted by COVID. But we brought concepts out to community meetings, 3 high school meetings, multiple civic meetings, and we presented 8 options. And those were the 8 options. Then we started to look at those 8 options, and then what can we do to try to narrow those, because we told our community in the fall we would take those 8 to 2. And we ended up taking these 3 and limited it to 2. Then in the fall, we took those 3 out, went through a community process again, some virtual meetings, some in-person meetings, blasting out communication, parents and families. We even stepped into something that's called thought exchange. We got a lot of great information from thought exchange. We did some parent surveying on options 1, options 2, options 3. And then we used professional polling. We went out and we looked at 300 voters that at least had voted in one of the past 4 general elections. When we asked them about what we should do with our facilities, it was a mixed bag. Some wanted only renovation, some wanted new, and some wanted a mix of those 2. We tested 3 options. That $3 that you see there under option 1 was estimated to be the dollar amount or the impact of a $160 million referenda on a House the gross value of about $100,000. You would see that each month. We tested an option 2. This is a $260 million referenda. Tested it in the same way. And I should point out, there's support for that option 1. 60% of those that we polled said they would vote for that. And option 2, a little tighter, but still a path forward. We went out from that, took these 2 options, and tested them. But we tested option 2 a little differently. We tested option 2 not only thinking about our high school facilities, but also our elementary schools and our middle schools, and how if we chose option 2, we could create a facilities plan for our district for the next several years. And you can see in our elementaries, in our middle schools, we have issues. It's not just about the high school facilities. When you look at this chart, sometimes I'm a little nervous, so that's why it's shaking up that I like one of those songs you remember when you're in elementary school, Bouncing Ball. If you see that light blue and dark blue, think of that as your mortgage. And let's say you own 5 or 6 homes. See a lot of teachers in here, we know that's not. But imagine you did. And you started to be able to pay this home off, and this home off, and this home off. To the point where, as you're paying those homes off, you might then decide to add on a room, build a patio. When you think about the advantage we have in Vigo County is we have considerable debt rolling off. We're paying off several of our mortgages. I would ask us to think about our high school project and trying to do it all with referenda dollars and saving what's underneath the cap in that mortgage area to help address every one of our buildings. If you take a look backwards, you can see what we've been able to do in the last 4 years. We've committed $27 million of that space that's under the cap so that your taxes would not increase. Do I have any Otter Creek people in here? I've got some Otter Creek people. You're getting a gym, getting cafeteria revitalized, a music room. And the reality of that is, that's all under the cap. We have a 21-cent debt service, and we did not have to increase taxes to do that $10 million project. The strategy, since we've been here, is to do some small bonds to help us with paving, HVAC, roofing, building projects. We've been very successful. But if we stay with option 2, it allows us to do something pretty significant, and that is to put together a long-term facilities plan. Not just about the high schools, but what's going to be left for the elementary schools, or what's going to be left for the middle schools. While the referenda pays for the upgrades of our high schools. That under the cap allows us to do paving projects, HVAC, roofing, building improvements. You ever seen those TV shows where they go in and they flip a house? Amy and I tried that. We couldn't get our house flipped in 30 minutes. That's how quickly they turn us around. We're beginning to do that using ESSER money. And when you hear me say ESSER, that's federal funds that we received because of COVID. But those run out in 2024. A long-term facility plan allows us to continue to flip rooms. I think right now, Otter Creek is on that list for this year. Terrytown is on that list for this year. Wabash is on that list for this year. That's technology upgrades in every room. New lighting, new flooring, new furniture. That's what happens when you have a long-term facility plan. If we go with option 2, we'll be able to continue that. If you take a look at this slide, everything that is in purple, we call that under the cap. I would like for you to think of that as 21 cents. 21 cents. The rest of our tax rate is just under $1. And so when we pay off a building, a project, we use that under the cap, that 21 cents, to try to fund whatever those are, and when we pay them off, we're looking for the next one. I think you've heard me say this multiple times. Nobody ever remembers when the superintendent lowers taxes. Nobody ever forgets if the superintendent raises taxes. And I've done both here, and only one made it in the paper. But our goal with that 21 cents is to keep that flat line for all of our other projects. So when we're talking about the high schools now, not that long-term facility plan, what we want to do is in the operational referenda in 2024 instead of 2027. And in ending that operational referenda, in option 2, it would be an additional 25 cents on top of that 16-cent referenda to create the $260 million we would need to attack our high schools. If you walk out of here, please do not walk out of here thinking, oh, the design has already been made up for South. That's just so you can see what 60%, 40% looks like. In that gold or in that orange, that would be all new academic facility space. What you see in that pink, that would be renovated down to the stud, down to the frame. When was the last time you peeked into the swimming pools? I think right now there's some great cockroach races that are happening down there. If you looked into the swimming pools, can you envision that as a renovation to the stud? Same area as from up above. You look over in this area, that would be a high school STEM center. So, in order to make option 2 happen, I'm going to bring Ryan Easton up here to explain question 2 for you. First thing, when I look at that, I see a word problem. I don't know about you. I look at that and I get afraid of trains going certain miles an hour in different directions and having to locate somewhere. That's the question that would be on the ballot if we wanted to win a $260 million referendum. That question is setting us up for failure. You ever vote for judges? You go in and you vote for judges, and you get down like to the third one. Do you really know that third judge? You maybe like his last name, or it might be the right political party for you. I'm wondering if you're only hearing about our project for the first time, will you even get past the first sentence before you say no? To help with that, we have developed on our website a calculator. You would go in and you would take the value of your home and you would put it into the calculator, or the value of your business, and it will give you an estimate of what you could expect to pay if we win a $260 million referendum. These young students right here, that's who we're building the high schools for. Think about that 4th grader, that 5th grader right now. They'll be walking into those new facilities. We'll let a couple other people talk about how long that takes and the timing of that. Right now, to talk about more of the financials, I'm going to hand it over to Todd Samuelson.
Good evening, members of the board and the public. My name is Todd Samuelson. I am a partner with Baker Tilly. With me here this evening is Jason Tanzel, a director with Baker Tilly. And we have been working on this project in the various scenarios that Dr. Hayworth has laid out for some time. And I'm not here to tell a different story. I'm just here to provide some additional information, some required by statute, so that the school corporation meets all of the statutory requirements of this public hearing, and really to emphasize or re-emphasize what Dr. Hayworth has gone through. If you're not overly familiar with our firm, Baker Tilly is a national CPA firm, but our practice fits within the public sector of Baker Tilly, and our team, which Jason and I are part of, solely concentrate on public projects for schools, cities, towns, counties, etc. And we operate primarily here in Indiana. And we have the good fortune of not only working with Vigo County schools, but the majority of school corporations here in Indiana. So where I want to start is just to have the board and the public aware, and to appease bond counsel as well, that we're meeting the statutory requirements. We did prepare and have on hand for anyone that is interested and would be available, I believe, at the school corporation's website, are various financial calculations, if you will, taking into account not only the proposed project that is being considered here this evening, but also other requirements required by statute of assessed valuation, debt ratios, and those types of things that, and overlapping debt, other debt of the school corporation, and what all and that means in terms of tax rates, So again, I'm not going to cover that here this evening. I would empty the room in a matter of minutes, but it is available as required by statute. For the presentation here this evening, very similar to what Dr. Hayworth just presented, but there are some requirements that we need to talk about by statute, and then I'm going to just provide a little additional insight in terms of how this financing would be structured. So again, on the screen here are various elements, as was mentioned in the initial comments by Dr. Hayworth. One of the purposes of this hearing and going forward in the legal process is to establish parameters or ceilings that cannot be exceeded. And I'm going to cover those here on this slide. So the maximum borrowing amount, as reflected, of $261,790,000, resulting in proceeds for the project of $260 million. The maximum repayment term, 20 years. It is possible that the financing could be done in one or more series of bond issues. So it's 20 years per series. The maximum term of the lease structure is 22 years. We also have estimated the interest expense for the repayment schedule. I can tell you this is a calculation based on interest rates that are well above the current market, but that estimate is just over $89 million of interest. And the maximum annual lease rental, or the maximum payment, which really translates to that tax rate that Dr. Hayworth is talking about, is just over $19 million. So the estimated maximum debt service for this project, the referendum debt service rate, would be just over 41 cents. As Dr. Hayworth mentioned, and the financial plan for the corporation would be to, in 2024, eliminate the current operating referendum levy, which is just over 16 cents. So the net impact of 25 cents is the estimate that we have for the impact on tax bills. And the calculator that Dr. Hayworth referred to is certainly the best way to estimate your personal situation. I'm going to cover some estimated or potential impact on taxpayers, but again, I'm sure I won't hit anybody in the room when I do that, so the calculator is the best way to do that. And again, that's in concert with the school corporation, something that we helped develop. This is a slide that you just saw from Dr. Hayworth, reiterating the fact that currently the school corporation has a debt service rate below the cap, that dark blue line. And again, the structure of those bond issues that are currently outstanding has been an eye toward the future needs that the school corporation has. And we've been aware of those. The corporation obviously has been aware of those. So this is a design that is purposeful to provide capacity going forward, that once the dark blue lines, which are the payments on the outstanding bond issues, go down, the corporation will be able to address other needs throughout the corporation beyond the high school project to make sure that those facilities and the needs, capital needs of those facilities continue to be met. The gold or the dark yellow represents the 16 cents roughly on the current operating referendum that was scheduled to go out to the year 2027. So this financial plan would have that stopped in 2024, which would be the first partial year of repayment on this bond issue, so that when the high school project bonds full payment would start in 2025. The net impact, as Dr. Hayworth has mentioned, would be 25 cents as the operating rate is eliminated. So taking that, all of that, and really trying to bring it back to what most of us understand a little bit better or are more accustomed to evaluating these types of projects is, okay, what does that mean on a tax bill? So this chart here assumes different levels of assessed valuation. And this would be, when we say gross assessed value in daily terms, that means market value, what your home or property would be worth. The net assessed value is after the deductions that are available primarily through the standard deduction that the state provides on real property. So the net assessed value, we've assumed all of these to be homesteads so that they receive the standard deduction for homesteads and the mortgage exemption. So then that's on net assessed value. If you've studied your tax bill, that is what you're taxed on. It's not the market value, but rather the debt. So then applying the net assessed value times the estimated tax rate of 25 cents, the property value that Dr. Hayward mentioned of just under 100,000 is the average homestead value in the county. So the impact would be roughly $6, and we go to the penny. Dr. Hayward rounds up to $7. So when he's talking about a $7 impact on the bowling, that's what they pay us for, is to go down to the penny. So that's the option or the dollar amount that he's referring to. The actual calculation is a little bit less than that. But I just want to tie those two comments together. That's the $7 that was mentioned. And we don't present these numbers monthly to try to drive down the number and make it seem like, well, that's not very much, but rather to bring it to the level that most households think about is how does this impact my monthly budget? And whether in most, I shouldn't say most, a high number of folks pay their taxes as part of their mortgage. And so that, in essence, then would be the estimate or the estimated impact on that monthly mortgage payment where you're paying the tax every month so that it accrues in your escrow to pay it twice a year. For those that pay it on an annual basis, the impact estimate is $79 or just under $80 per year. So that is the additional financial information that I'm happy to present to the board here this evening. I'd be glad to answer any questions should they arise. Thank you.
At this time, we're going to call on Mr. Bill Payne, the architect, who can talk to us about the proposed projects, how those meet the needs as described by Dr. Hayward.
Pardon me. Good evening, members of the board, members of the community. I'm Bill Payne. I'm Chief Executive Officer of Fanning Howey. Fanning Howey is an architectural engineering and interior design firm. We are in our 61st year of practice. Our focus is primarily the design of learning environments, of which a significant portion of that is in service to public education institutions in the Midwest and throughout the country. In the design of school facilities, it's been our pleasure to be retained by Vigo County School Corporation in 2016 to prepare a feasibility study for the high schools. In 2020, we were invited back then to update that study as well as provide a district-wide assessment of all facilities. And you've seen some of those results of those that Dr. Hayward has previously presented. Our feasibility study for the high schools included an analysis of the existing facilities to perform relative to safety and security, site and circulation, building envelope, and when we say that, roofs, walls, windows, basically everything that encloses the interior space, interior finishes and spaces, systems, and educational adequacy. Now, although I mentioned educational adequacy last, in fact, the very first thing we did, and board members that participated will remember, is we sat down with staff, educational leaders in each one of the buildings, and we talked about the programming that was taking place currently and in the future. What is needed to make sure that your students, when they graduate from the 3 high school campuses, are well prepared either now to immediately go into a career or into secondary education. After evaluating that, then we looked very closely at all 3 of the buildings. You won't be surprised to know that not all of the areas in the buildings were totally unsuitable for future use. That's not unusual. More than 50% of our work is a combination of additions and renovations as opposed to brand new construction. So we did evaluate those buildings, prepared options, presented those to the board. The board asked for additional options, and ultimately, as Dr. Hayward showed you, there were 8 options. And then we started to pare those back down. Each one of those 8 options, in our opinion, can satisfactorily respond to the needs of both your educational programming as well as providing the right learning environments for the 21st century learner. In option 2, it represents a really good balance. And by that I mean, it takes those existing spaces that are in great shape and with full renovation can be prepared to perform for the next 35 to 50 years. So certainly, why demolish those, rebuild, when you already have that? What you own right now is a great investment. Retain that and move forward. The spaces that were most challenged, that I think most would agree, are in the academic areas. Many of you have seen the science labs, undersized. Plumbing is a problem, as you saw the initial video from North. Some of the challenges of some of the building systems. So the best response is to provide a balance of taking what works well, renovating it, retaining it, and then replacing what is in the poorest condition that will not satisfy your needs going forward. The images that Dr. Hayworth shared with you, that particular model of South, is purely representational. That's certainly not a design. That's simply to show the balance of 60% new versus 40% renovated. And in the image of the pool, I'm sure that you all can envision what North and South Pool looks like right now as an empty metal and concrete tank with frosted windows so that you can't see it. So I'm not sure that you all can imagine what that could look like. So we prepared that rendering to show you what a full renovation of existing space can accomplish. So in our professional opinion, option 2 provides a great balance and a good response to address all of the needs that Dr. Hayworth, the board, communities expressed throughout these number of years, even before we started in bringing your high school campuses into the 21st century prepared for service in the next 35 to 50 years. Again, I'll also be available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. At this time, we're going to open the public hearing. Remember, if you want to speak, you need to sign in, as I mentioned earlier. And we'll be limiting comments tonight due to the numbers that we have to 3 minutes. We just ask that you address the board. Maybe if someone could adjust the podium so it's facing us again, that'd be great. And if we can avoid repetition. We just ask that if someone, says something that you would have, and that was the gist of your comments, maybe just consider coming to the podium and saying, I second that, as opposed to taking the full 3 minutes. I have the sign in here, and I'm just gonna start calling names in the order that they signed in. And just as a reminder too, we don't cede our time to other speakers, so if you don't want to speak, that's perfectly fine, but you can't give that time to another speaker. And forgive me if I misread any of these. I think the first on our list is Mr. C. Joseph.
Thank you. Great to see everybody here today. I'm Steve Joseph, principal of Terrell North High School. And I'd like to get back to that slide that showed the waterfall or the new fountain in our hallway. Let me tell you a little bit about how that thing occurred. That started with a small drip. Drip, drip, drip. Got it. Call our general service, they come in there. They got a thing called a boot that they put over that thing. They tighten up there to seal that off there and stop that drip. Well, the condition of our plumbing right now, when they start to tighten that thing up, it crushed the pipe. Now we have a full 1.5 inch diameter tube of water coming out of that pipe. What you saw there was pretty much toward the end of it, when it was kind of spurting like that. Before that, it was a full 1.5 inch tube of water. And that's what we're looking for. Or not for, but that's what we're looking at on a daily basis. Not necessarily 1.5 inches of water coming out there, but typically we have plumbing problems regularly. Something to think about, the mental status of our students. Are we telling our students that this is the best we have to offer for you? That you're okay with an 1.5 inch tube of water shooting in your hallway? That any one day you can come in there and your bathrooms are going to be shut down? Maybe you go to Mr. Caddick's room one day, and it's shorts and t-shirt in the middle of winter time. It's 90 degrees in there. The next day you go in that classroom, same classroom, or maybe one down the road, it's 50 degrees in there now. We need a park in there to stay warm for you. He's letting us know what's going on in his class today. And then maybe once a week, once a month, we walk in there and the temperature's just perfect. It's absolutely fantastic in there. Now we can focus on Mr. Caddick and what he has to tell us. I think we need to make an investment in our students, the most valuable commodity that we have in our community, and tell them that they are worth this. They are worth a better building, a building that they can come into and be proud of. That's all I have to say. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Next, I have Shelley Gardner.
Dr. Hayworth and members of the board, my name is Shelley Gardner, and I'm here to speak about the importance of having a comprehensive plan for Vigo County schools. I've taught at the elementary level, the middle school level, and I currently teach writing to 2nd and 5th graders at 3 different elementaries. And although this referendum primarily is focused on the high schools and should be, it has an impact on elementary and middle schools as well. Therefore, I'm supporting option 2. Our elementary schools and middle schools weren't built for today with today's focus in mind. Technology has overwhelmed us all, yet at the same time has made vast improvements with our communication and our production. When I was in elementary school, I wanted to be a teacher or a nurse. Today, elementary and middle school students want to be YouTubers, gamers, Twitch streamers, and influencers. I forgot professional athletes. And of course, they also still want to be teachers and nurses, and also doctors and farmers. But those fields continue to advance, and the preparation that you and I received is a lot different from the preparation that these students need heading into the future century, or to the century. Continued improvements to all of our schools are absolutely necessary. As we move forward into this century, the makeup of our learning community is changing. Learning is collaborative, not static, and we will need spaces to make this a reality. The future calls for redesigned classrooms that make this collaboration possible. Teachers helping to design art rooms, music rooms, science labs, and collaborative spaces to meet the needs of our students is what we need to strive for. Imagine mobile furnishings with foldable partitions that allow for daily flexibility and changes in the learning environment. Learning is moving away from the I teach, you listen instruction model. We need option 2 on our ballot. Although option 1 will help to improve the high schools, which we recognize is greatly needed, I believe that option 2 is the best option to keep all schools current. Nobody wants to pay higher taxes, but to stay in line with how fast our world is changing, we must keep up in our schools as well. And that's not just at the high school level. Elementary schools and middle school students can't sit idle this entire time while the high schools are being improved. We are the ones producing those future Braves, Patriots, and Vikings, and we have to prepare them for what the new high school experiences will provide. So with option 2 in mind, we can do that. Necessity breeds invention. It's necessary for our schools with what they need to select option 2. We must stay up with the times and can't let our elementaries and middle schools remain stagnant by making the wrong choices. This is my 33rd year as an educator in the Vigo County School Corporation, and I'm a parent of 2 North graduates, and I know that high schools need improved. Yet, let's not forget our elementary and middle schools, and that's why I believe option 2 should be the one on our ballot. Thank you.
Next, I have Baker.
All right, good evening. So I'm Mark Baker. I am a father of 3 young girls you may have noticed running around this room. So obviously we have a very vested interest in this referendum, and my family is very much in support of option number 2 because, I mean, yes, we know our high schools are in dire need of help, and but we also have these 3 young children that are going to be in the school system for a long time, and I also know that the elementary schools are also, maybe a little behind the times and need all the technology upgrades. And I've heard Dr. Hayworth a few times kind of talk a little bit about education in the past and what education really needs to look like in the future. And, I wholeheartedly agree that we need to really look at what education should look like going forward, especially for our children. And obviously my family, my wife and I, we invest a lot into Terre Haute. We truly believe in the future of this city, and we know we're on the cusp of some really good things, and I think we're going to experience some really good growth with everything we have going on in this city. And if you look at some of the big cities, and especially in the state of Indiana, that have really done well with attracting employers and attracting families and people to come to their communities, I think at the very top of that, what they're looking at is the schools. And I think that we definitely need to go in now and really put the money where it needs to be. And again, I like that we can renovate and build new at all three schools at the same time with option 2, and still have that money available to make sure we're not just going to sit, just like you were saying, sit idle and let the elementary schools just continue to deteriorate while we're focusing on trying to get through the improvements to the high schools. Let's just get them done, and let's be ready for all the growth this city's going to be experiencing, because we believe in Terre Haute's future, and this is a big part of it.
Next time, Jen Lee. I believe it's Jen or Jan.
John.
Oh, John.
I'm a math teacher, not English, sorry. Good evening, John Lee. I've held many hats. Currently at Terre Haute South as a teacher, coach, part-time dean. I spent a year at Woodrow Wilson working with some math remediation as well. I've been in all different levels of mathematics. I've seen not a lot happen with our buildings. And as Mr. Joseph said, we're putting Band-Aids on things. And that only gets us so far. Eventually the Band-Aids break. And we're just not getting over the hump. Something has to be done to break the cycle and push us forward. We can't just let things continue to go and do little things and little things and little things, and we're having the same conversation year after year. Option 2 obviously allows us to speed that up, break the cycle, do good things for our high schools where we have seen things going the opposite direction. People leaving our community, students, families leaving our community. What can we do to keep them back? By investing in them, and by breaking that cycle and getting things going. With that option 2, not only do we take care of those kids, but we take care of the young kids that we have in our community. I plan to be here for a long time. I have a nephew that just started at Terre Haute North. I have a nephew at Woodrow Wilson. I have godsons. I have other young people that I'm willing to invest in. We need to continue doing that young stuff, but we also need to push towards the future much quicker and much more efficient than what we're doing at this point, and just spinning the wheels, because I feel like we're just stuck. Athletically, that goes a long way. I've dealt with athletics for a long time. We have gotten excuses of, we just don't know what's going to happen. We're still waiting, We need to break the cycle. And by pushing and for that cycle, or option 2, that just allows us to get there quickly and have direction and show people that we care. Bring people back to Terre Haute. And that's what I think needs to happen as far as that option 2 level. We're just trying to get people back here. We're trying to get people to continue to invest or invest again in what we're trying to do. And that's put kids first, put their interests first, and push them on to the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Isaac Turner.
Hello, my name is Isaac Turner. Thank you for letting me speak today. I've been a resident of Vigo County for about 20 years. Terre Haute has been a wonderful community to me and my family. I deeply believe in the people who live here. I graduated from Terre Haute South and have been a teacher at Terre Haute North since 2015. And from a teacher to a student, I have a good understanding of our system. I come partly today to address specific problems I've seen at North. I will start with my room. It's a general science classroom, so there isn't a lot of functionality for physics labs. I have multiple clogged sinks, broken table legs, damaged ceiling tiles, and bad outlets. I've received a new whiteboard a couple years ago, which I held up with a couple of C-clamps and flanges, which we later ended up replacing with some extra screws. Many of the science rooms at North is just like that. Nothing special, but the small problems. Some of the other rooms, like the large lecture room, have seen better days. A beautiful room once filled with many students in a very college-like setting. Now has been pretty much vacant for the last 2 years because of water damage, mold, and other safety issues. Classroom functionality is only one part of the issues. I've currently witnessed on several occasions that HVAC systems working poorly, as mentioned. Rooms either too hot or too cold. I'm no stranger to the occasional bat flying around in the room that has to be caught by a teacher. Dodging trash cans as I walk to my class that are catching leaking water. And the student recording, bugs or mold, posting it on social media, further driving down the image of the Vigo County School Corporation. How nice would it be to have a physics classroom that had an up-to-date electrical support system and motion detector placements? A zoology classroom with dissection tables and proper storage for their expirables. An aerospace science room made with the complete understanding about how our planet encourages the imagination of the stars. New opportunities help us redesign our workspace that can give us the right push towards the future. Remodeling and updating doesn't just mean new tables and a fresh coat of paint. It can also mean classrooms can meet the change for our evolving economy. We can meet the modernized vocational opportunities that require new workspaces. To me, this is a huge chance to customize our science classrooms to meet the needs of individual subject matters. Lastly, I want to end where I began. Terre Haute is a wonderful place, and I want to see it grow and thrive. And as the convention center comes in and we have a new influx of businesses, hopefully in the next few years, it's important that we keep our school systems up to date. It's not uncommon for people in suburban and urban areas to want to move to a place like Terre Haute. Schools will always be a top priority for these families looking to set down roots. As we look to update our facilities, we can make strides and set the tone, pushing our children's education and their future as our top priority. So instead of social media pointing out the problems we have with our district, we can use them to promote the promise VCSC makes to its parents and stakeholders. Thank you.
John Olson.
Good evening, Dr. Hayworth and school board members. My name is John Olson. My wife and I moved to Terre Haute 47 years ago for 1 year, but we never left. We're big fans of Vigo County, Terre Haute, and the Vigo County School Corporation. We've had 3 kids attend Vigo County schools. The last one graduated 20 years ago. My job as a psychologist for 22 years took me innumerable times into every school in the corporation to represent and advocate for the free appropriate public education of what I believe is the corporation's largest minority group at nearly 29%, and that's special education students who need good space. While it's been 20 years since we've had a child in the corporation, this is still our community and our school system. Many people I care about are students in or employees of the corporation in these buildings. I've taken advantage of the extraordinary efforts of the administration to seek public input for budget, strategic planning, and the future of our high schools and one middle school. I've been to board meetings, listening sessions, small group participation sessions, and facility tours. I'm glad to see people here tonight because too many of these have been poorly attended. The North facility tour was eye-opening and very discouraging. So I want to thank Dr. Hayworth for shepherding the high school process during distractions with enrollment decline, budget challenges, and education day-to-day during the pandemic. I want to thank the community for generating 8 high school options, and then I want to thank Dr. Hayworth and team even more for reducing those to 3 and now to 2. Option 1 gives us 4 schools, the 4 schools we need, 3 high schools and West Vigo Middle, if I understand correctly. 4 schools that we need, but at the expense of crippling construction, repair, or renovation projects at our other 23 schools, possibly for years. This is robbing Peter to pay Paul, except that Peter is every preschool to 8th grade, with the exception of West at West Vigo Middle and their teachers and support staff. Option 2 gets us the 4 schools we need and allows the rest of the corporation to keep pace with projects to meet educational needs. Everyone's educational facility needs would be met. That sounds pretty traditionally American to me, and what's more American than the promise of an appropriate education? Board, please select option 2, community. Please get up, get out, and support your Vigo County School Corporation referendum with your vote, hopefully for option 2. Thank you.
Next I have Brian. The last name is Quistra. Quistra. Okay. My apologies. A little confusing.
That's the first time that's ever happened. Yeah, anytime I hear Brian and then a long pause, I know that's the cue. Good evening. My name is Brian Koistra, and I'm with Garmont Construction, a Terre Haute-based company, and I'm here again in support of the proposed improvements to our high schools. As a leader of a local growing business, our ability to attract top talent is crucial to our growth, and the successfulness of that effort is closely tied to the quality of public education available. I recently came across an article titled, "The 7 Things to Consider Before Relocating Your Family." Not surprisingly, school districts and educational opportunities was number 1 on the list. The article went on to say that education is one of the most important things in life for both yourself and your children. Before relocating, consider what educational opportunities are available and the quality of those institutions. Take the time to research local school districts before deciding where to live. If our community and its businesses hope to grow and prosper in the future, investments must be made in our educational facilities today. As such, I would like to voice support for option 2, as it strikes the right balance in terms of timing, scope, and fiscal responsibility. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Chris Paff. I live at 2540 North 9th Street, and that is in the North Vigo District. I am also a graduate of Terre Haute North, class of '85, as well as my wife, same year, and our 4 children. Collectively, the 6 of us have been subjected to this building for 22 collective years. And my wife, much longer, as she has taught for the corporation going on 28 years at all 3 high schools. So believe me when I tell you that we know these buildings, and we know the impact that literal decades of deferred maintenance causes. We don't need to cover the reasons why this decision to improve our high schools is necessary. I think that's obvious. It's also painfully obvious what needs to be done. And I think it's important to recognize that your predecessors have failed us. This issue should have been addressed many years ago, but we cannot change that. What we can do is support your efforts to improve this community and our local economy. I am the CEO of an economic development firm in Knox County. I've also led many teams across Indiana at the state level, the university, in national defense, and now local business development. And in that 20+ years of service, I've learned that education, especially secondary education, is the foundation of our economy. Companies need and want to locate where they have access to talent. And people, as Brian mentioned, want to live in communities where their children have opportunities. And students should be proud of their schools, not apologetic. I came here this evening for a few reasons. One, I want to thank you for taking this on, this decision-making process on. It's long overdue. Next, I'm here to remind you that the cheaper option is not always the best, and it often causes more costs in the long term. And finally, I came to encourage you to do the right thing and don't shortchange our future generations. I believe option 2 is the best course of action, because all three schools deserve to be renovated simultaneously and as quickly as we can. Number two, it maximizes our resources for both academic and non-academic spaces to be renovated. And finally, it's the right thing to do if we're going to increase population and grow this economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Bob Murray. Bob Murray.
Good evening. My name is Bob Murray. I'm the Executive Director of the Beagle County Taxpayers Association. At our meeting yesterday, we voted to support option 2 regarding the high schools. Many of our members are business owners who will bear the brunt of the tax increases, but they are aware of how important it is to upgrade the facilities. As you can see, I am old, I'm 83, and may not be around to see the finished product. Even my grandkids are already through the system. So why do I care what happens to the schools? Many years ago, I worked for a national CPA firm. I was involved in the site selection process for 3 companies. The quality of the local schools was high on the list for every one of them. I do not think that has changed. If anything, it's more important than ever. We need to move forward with upgrading our high school facilities. It is important for the future economic growth of our community. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Noah Gamble. It's difficult to follow the esteemed Mr. Murray. As a former president of the Taxpayers Association, I can tell you that that organization does not show its support for something like this without taking its due diligence and weighing all the options. I am a parent of 2 children in a school corporation. One, a 4th grader at Devaney Elementary. The other, a graduate of Devaney Elementary as well, and soon to be a Terre Haute South Brave. And if that is a tough one to swallow for me, imagine the teachers who I know are in this room right now swallowing that as well. As someone who graduated Terre Haute South in 2000, and whose father graduated in 1975, and whose only slightly younger cousins now attend. That building has not changed. To be the comparable kissing cousin to Mr. Paff with regard to the families that have gone through Terre Haute North. We have gone through and suffered through that building as well. Dr. Hayworth, I'm more of a Harry Truman fan myself. But I'm also a big fan of John Adams, a fantastic attorney, a model to many attorneys, and I couldn't help but notice that there are only slightly fewer attorneys in this audience today than there were at the State of the Judiciary yesterday. And anybody in the legal field can tell you that with regard to solving a problem or solving conflict, can tell you that mediation or settlement or arbitration is a great way of doing that. And when you go into your mediation or arbitration, you typically tell your client, you're not going to have your best day when you come out of here. But if someone walks away with a little bit of something, it's a good in between. Mr. Edling, I think I saw you. Am I wrong? He's in the back? Am I wrong on that? I would have loved brand new high schools, but option 2 is a great in-between. I strongly encourage you to consider option 2, where no one quite exactly gets exactly what they want, It's a little bit more expensive than option one, a lot less expensive than option two, but it's a great way to attack our facilities and do what needs to be done many, many years ago. Some of you know I left private practice. I'm now an attorney with the Department of Child Services. I took that position several years ago, and I'm not here on behalf of my employer, but I can tell you as an attorney practicing in this area with regard to families and children in need, that this, while a brand new high schools and things like that is not a panacea that can solve all our problems, it will certainly help create a safe facility and a safe place and a safe environment for our children and for those who that is the only safe place that they have. So I ask, as many have said today already, please invest in our kiddos and give them something to be prideful of. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nathan Augustus.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'd just like to thank you all for taking the time to listen to our thoughts and our concerns. I have a wife who is a teacher at Consultant Elementary. I have 2 kids. Well, one of them was due in like a month, so I don't know how I'm going to count it. But yeah, I've got 2 kids who will be in the school corporation. I was able to be part of the West Vigo varsity soccer team last year, and I'm a tax-paying citizen, so I do appreciate the time to be able to address some concerns. When I think about Vigo County School Corporation, there is one overarching theme to my concern, and that is whether or not the budget is really being effective in creating the best possible educational environment for our students. There's several factors that I've thought of with that. One, I'm concerned that the quality of education is not going to be as great with overcrowded schools or with outdated facilities. We've seen a lot of examples already of the obvious impact that that can have on our students. And then also, as we're moving students around in different consolidation practices, my wife's talked about that a bit and how that's impacted hers as more students have gone to consolidated. It's an obvious concern. The second concern that I have is whether or not the funds that taxpayers provide will be used in the most effective way. It's been addressed several times already. There has been misuse of funds in the past, and it is concerning to me that we would be able to trust that the funds are going to be used in the most crucial way, in the most effective way possible. Lastly, I've been concerned that whatever taxpayer money we do use, are we actually going to be creating an environment where faculty are going to be attracted to that environment? Are we really creating a positive work environment where talented, committed teachers and staff are going to want to go to the school corporation and stay in the corporation and invest in our kids' lives? Before I move on to my next point, I'd like to point out I am a fiscal conservative. I do not like taxes, okay? I believe that there is a real, overtaxation is a thing, you know? I think a lot of us might agree with that. But having said that, I just want to know where I'm coming from. But I would support option 2 because I see this as being necessary for the furtherment of our community, for the betterment of future generations. If we want Terre Haute to have a better impact, we got to look to the next generation. And this is why I think that, one, if I am concerned with overcrowded and outdated facilities, we have to admit the fact that that is going to take some financial resources. We have to be able to own that. That is going to take some investment from our community, so we have to be willing to boost taxes in that way. Secondly, if we are going, I know misuse of funds has been an issue in the past, but I'd like to thank you all for the presentations that I've seen. I've been to several. The numbers have been very clear. The data has been very solid. I've seen a lot of references, and even I've talked to some of you individually and addressed concerns and asked questions. I've been very appreciative of the responses that I've received. And lastly, with the matter of faculty, I think it's just, if we started to think about what other industries would be using facilities 50, 60, 70 years outdated, Imagine if we went to an auto shop or a dental office or a doctor, and they were using technology that was common 50, 60, 70 years ago. I think it's safe to say that the clients that would use those facilities would definitely not enjoy themselves, and let alone the staff who were having to work in those conditions. They would not appreciate that, especially as they saw everyone else around them starting to grow in their technological advancements. So with all that together, I really do support option 2. I thank you all for the presentations that you've given us, and I look forward to seeing what happens in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Danielle Miller. When it comes to our schools, I have many viewpoints. I graduated from Terre Haute North in 2010. I'm now in my 3rd year at Terre Haute North as a teacher. I teach marketing, which is an elective course for high schoolers, and I'm also the deck advisor. Having new innovative classrooms and space is what builds my program, as well as others in my CTE department. I cannot build a program if the space around me is out of date. I have been talking to my students about the decision of our city, and what stuck out to me the most was when one of my students said, when we're invested into, we feel valued and we want to work harder. And I'm also a mother to 3 children. My oldest daughter will start kindergarten this year in Vigo County this fall. I have personally seen numerous people leave our school system to attend different school corporations. I believe that with up-to-date spaces for our high schools, it would bring back up our enrollment. We cannot compete with surrounding area high schools with the current conditions of ours. I also speak as a Vigo County homeowner. I care about the future of my city, my workplace, and my children's education, and option 2 would be beneficial for all in our school corporation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chrissy Dillian, and I'm here to speak in support of option 2. I'm coming from the perspective of not only a teacher, but a parent as well. I've had the opportunity to teach in 3 different schools, middle school level and elementary level, and my current position is the math liaison, so I have the opportunity to visit 6 different elementary schools, K through 5, teaching math lessons, helping teachers, etc. So I'm able to see the differences in the classrooms and the buildings and the technology. And I've noticed that with our technology upgrades that teachers are utilizing Chromebooks with students. I'm able to incorporate digital activities into my lessons. Like Mrs. Gardner said, our students are very tech savvy. If we have a problem, we just ask them and they fix it. But with the new technology, we are able to provide so many more opportunities for our students. So with option 2, allowing monies to continue improvements in our elementary schools, I think it will help our students further academically. On the second note, I'm also a parent of 3 children. I have a high schooler, I have a middle schooler, and I have a kindergartner. All of them are very different. High schooler is very academic driven, but also very hands-on, drives a race car, wants to be in the garage all the time. So improvements in the CTE areas would definitely please him. My kindergartner is the exact opposite, special needs student. He attends Deming Early Learning Center, transitional kindergarten. That's the best thing that has ever happened to him. Last year, as a parent having a kindergartner that wasn't ready to go, I had a huge dilemma. So the fact that monies were able to be put towards an elementary school, or the early learning center in this case, has definitely proven to be successful for him. Areas like sensory rooms could be added to elementary with the extra money from option 2. So again, option 2 is something that I would approve of as a parent and also as a teacher.
Good evening. My name is Crystal Dorian. Missouri and have been a middle school teacher and a coach for 18 years. 14 of those years have been with the Iowa County School Corporation, and 7 of those years have been at Westego Middle School. I am a graduate of Terre Haute North, and my 3 children will be graduating from Westego High School in 2027, 2029, and 2035. My husband is a first responder, and we are both active members and taxpayers of the West Terre Haute community. As a classroom teacher, I've experienced various facility upgrades and renovations. I feel that in order for a renovation to be successful, it should not only improve the physical space of a building, but it should also provide opportunities for students to excel academically and should also support mental health. To allow our students a pathway to succeed in college and career readiness, trade skills, and job training courses, technology must be improved within the classrooms. We have made tremendous gains in technology over the last 2 years. However, with the proper renovation, our classrooms will be able to support that technology and its advancements over time. In my classroom currently, technology and storage is a daily struggle. The internet connection, lack of desk space, wire placement, outlet placement, lack of material space, and dated projector capabilities make it difficult to depend on technology uses on a daily basis. The lack of storage makes it difficult to store materials needed to complete hands-on projects needed for project-based learning. As a parent, I know that my own children have pride in their school and community. They are actively involved in sports and academics, and they plan to remain involved throughout the high school. I would like to see that pride continue with facility upgrades that provide updated restrooms, hallways that are wide enough to accommodate a number of students, and a heating and cooling system that provides efficient air temperatures throughout the various seasons. As a coach, I have encountered numerous athletes over the years. Westego pride is something that runs deep in many of our athletes. They enjoy competing at home, enjoy the community support, and they want to take pride in their home gym and their facilities. However, our athletes and physical education students deserve an updated locker room. The current locker room is extremely outdated and could use renovations that allow students to have pride in inviting others into their school. As a parent, coach, teacher, and wife of a first responder, I feel that safety features must be improved. Improvements to our walls, doors, windows, and communication systems should be top priority. In addition, the flow of morning and evening traffic should be considered to allow a safer atmosphere for buses, parents, students, and staff members. I love my job and my school community. This is not a list of complaints or a wish list. However, I feel that due to my experience in education, my concerns are valid and my suggestions are achievable. I appreciate your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Arrington Cyrus, is that correct? I apologize.
It's Searwalk.
Okay, well, wasn't gonna get that one.
I'm like Brian, I wait for the pause after Andrea. I know it's coming. So I feel like I should support option 1 just because it's kind of not getting a lot of press today. And I know you all put a lot of work into all the options, but I am also here to throw my support for option 2. I come to this position in 2 of my roles in this community. I'm a professor at ISU, but more importantly, I'm a mom of 2 Danang dragons. And I have an anecdote as a professor that I've sort of been thinking about in terms of this conversation. So we just started classes this week, and I have a class that has mostly juniors and seniors and a couple of freshmen in it. And we had our first kind of real discussion today, and of course, unsurprisingly, the juniors and seniors knew what they were talking about, knew how to access their readings on Canvas, actually did do their reading on Canvas, and the freshmen were quiet. And this anecdote I know doesn't seem to directly connect, but it makes me think about what happens if we move forward building our high schools and we leave our middle school and elementary students to sort of just drift. Are they going to be ready when they show up as 14-year-olds to these high schools? Are they going to be able to make that jump, or can we help them ease into high school, which is a big transition, by making sure that their elementary education is as strong as it can be and their middle school education is as strong as it can be, that they have access to the technology, that they're used to what a 21st century classroom is or should be. And so I think that we can learn a lot by thinking about the stages and understanding that a high school is one stage in this long evolution of our students, of our children. As a parent, listening to the conversation about attracting people, keeping people, when my family decided, when I got a job offer at ISU, one of the things that appealed to my husband and I was that we were, at the time, living in a city that had a lottery system for their public schools. No child should ever only get a quality education because they got lucky in a lottery system. And we were not willing to play the lottery for our kids' education. So even though it's going to be expensive, any option is expensive. It's expensive to come into the 21st century. As a taxpayer, I get that. My husband is a taxpayer who hates taxes. There was someone else who said that. But even my husband's on board with this because we understand that the price of this is actually much lower than having an uneducated population. And I think that that has to start with our elementary school students. So thank you for all your hard work, and definitely it's nice to see that so many people are in favor of option 2, and there's so many good reasons to proceed that way. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is James Twitchell. Had I founded Twitch, I'd just pay for this and we can all go home. But I didn't. Again, my name is James Twitchell. I live in southern Vigo County. I'm a 2005 graduate of Terre Haute South High School. Without going into any real detail, I can safely say that I wouldn't be where I am in life today without my teachers in the Vigo County School Corporation at Dixie B, Honey Creek, and Terre Haute South. I want to start by acknowledging all the hard work that you guys do, all the difficult, challenging decisions that this administration and school board have had to address over the past couple of years on top of COVID-19. While I don't agree with every decision that's been made, I certainly respect all of your hard work and consideration that's gone into all of those decisions. I know that had to be difficult. As it relates to the referendum for the Vigo County High Schools, I'm here tonight in support of option 2. My wife is a teacher at Sugar Grove Elementary and herself a graduate of Terre Haute North High School. We have our first child on the way, to be due in April. So that's really the main reason that I'm here today. I'm here for my kids, I'm here for my nieces and nephews, I'm here for my friends' kids, and that we invest in them and that we invest in the schools. The teachers and coaches in those schools have suffered long enough from less than operable working conditions. I'm here for them tonight as well. One thing that I'd just really like for you all to consider is, for me, $250 is a small price to pay for investing in our future, in our youth, in our schools. Terre Haute and Vigo County have been built and sustained by educators and educational institutions for my whole life. Between Vigo County School Corporation, Indiana State University, Rose-Hulman, St. Mary the Woods, and Ivy Tech, they combine for nearly 5,000 individuals employed. If you add that up with family and friends, there is a lot of support that is going to be behind this. If this community can get behind a casino, I hope to God we can get behind this referendum, option 2. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Carrie Dayhuff. I'm a lifelong resident of Terre Haute, and I'm also a teacher at Otter Creek Middle School. To say attending Terre Haute North is a tradition in my family is almost an understatement. Both of my parents and I attended North, and in fact, my dad was part of the first class that went all 3 years at North when it opened. 3 of my aunts attended North, 6 of my cousins, 2 of their spouses, and 4 of their kids attended North or are currently attending North. 2 of my cousins did go to South, but we don't talk about that. My dad coached softball at North for 25 years, and so you could say In the whole of my family, we have truly experienced every era of the current Terre Haute North building. My family has seen the building and what I would call its glory days, and they have experienced it in what, as we saw today, were some not so glorious days. In some ways, our high schools are like a time capsule. You walk through the doors and it could be 2001 or 1971. At North, the bathrooms by the guidance office look exactly the way they did in 1971. And the only way that I know that is because my parents, who were there, told me that. While I firmly believe that just because something is old doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be replaced, in the case of our high schools, I think their time has come. I recently moved to Shrine Hill so that I could ensure that my son, who is almost 3, will be able to attend Terre Haute North just as every member of his family has. So tonight, I'm here to voice my support for option 2 and ask you as the board to support it as well, so that every family who bleeds Patriot Blue, Brave Black, or Viking Green has the opportunity to learn in an environment that is built to bring us into the future rather than always revisiting the past. Thank you.
Colleen DeGroot.
Good evening, Dr. Hayworth, members of the board. My name is Kelly DeGroat. I'm a middle school PE teacher and a baseball coach, so I don't need a microphone, so I apologize if I get a little too loud. I was joking with somebody earlier today. I have a daughter that's in kindergarten, and I just told them we should just line up about 10 or 12 of those cute little kindergartners and then make the board say no to them. But you can't do it. Okay? I'm going to vote for option 2. And I have 4 simple reasons why I'm going to do that. Number 1 is school safety. It hasn't been mentioned much, but although I'm 45 with a 6-year-old, so I'll probably never retire, but I have 20 years left to teach. Okay, I have 20 years. Unfortunately, with the trend of school shootings, the odds of me experiencing a school shooting are much higher than I'd like. In our building, I don't know if it's up to task to combat that. The SPOs help, but a new school sure would be nice for myself, fellow teachers, and our students. Secondly, the ability to attract and retain top-notch educators. We're in the middle of a teacher shortage. It's probably going to get worse. The best thing we could do is build a facility and a campus across the corporation that attracts educators that are serious about being educators and that want to educate the youth of America going forward. Also, the ability to attract students, to get students and to be able to keep those students. The students that enroll in kindergarten, they finish our corporation as high school graduates. That's an important thing. And another simple fact we have to keep in mind, Paris, Illinois to the west has built a Taj Mahal High School. South Vermillion to the north, Northview to the east, and Sullivan to the south have all spent significant amounts of money upgrading their campuses. We're in the middle of it. And I think it's time to act, to keep up with the times, to update our facilities so that we're not losing educators, we're not losing students to our surrounding school corporations, because it's happening. It's not going to get any better. Thank you.
Sorry. By all means.
Good evening, everyone. Ryan Houston, principal of Western Middle and High School. Just want to start off by saying the only reason I'm here is because I want to implode the Green Dome and I want a bigger office. You might quote that too. I know you guys did a lot of listening this week, I just want to make sure you're awake. Now, I'm going to start with a quick story. About 11 years ago, I took my now 18-year-old over to Indianapolis to the dentist, to a specialist. She's blessed and has her mom's hereditary missing teeth and my amazing jawline. Destined for a long life of mouth issues. Doctor comes out, gives us the potential bill. Cherish looks at it, looks at me. No reason to look at that. Let's roll. Why? Because we do what we need to do for our children. We move forward. We do what it takes to provide for them. We make sacrifices. We talk about buildings, we look at photos, we look at links, we've gone on tours. But this is not a vote about a building. This is a vote about our children, and opportunity, and providing for them. It's going to take sacrifice. Absolutely. I don't get the new cars, less times go out to eat, but my daughter likes to smile. I ask you to be game changers in the history and culture of Vigo County. Casinos, convention centers, jails are nice, but they do not change the culture of a community. Going into a grocery store, somebody mentioned earlier, going to a grocery store, the movie theater, wherever it is not the same now as it was in 1975. If we watched a movie from 1985, it would look weird. But if you walk into the high school, it's the exact same as it was in 1985. If we don't go with option 2, we're going to be the exact same place in 10 years talking about elementary schools and the other 4 middle schools. If we don't move forward, our schools are going to be as empty as Honey Creek Square. Thank you.
Ross, I think it's Khalid, is that right? I'm sorry. Well, that is not what I'm thinking.
Good evening, Dr. Hayward and board. My name is Ross Caddick. I am a 1991 graduate of Terre Haute North Vigo High School and a teacher at North Vigo High School as well. I believe it was Mark Twain who said, "It is better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and have it known, have it confirmed." As many of my students would tell you, past and present, I'm not one that follows that advice very often. But I must admit in this case that the vast majority of my points have been made much more eloquently and well by previous speakers. So I would simply say that I rise in support of option 2, and I would implore the community to support this option as well. This is an investment in our future, and this is something that we can't afford to mess up. Thank you.
Dr. Tammy Rochendale.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Tammy Rochendale, principal of Terre Haute South, and I am in strong favor of option 2 in that we need new academic spaces desperately and require major renovation in our cafeteria, auditorium, and athletic and gymnasium areas. Our students need and deserve modern learning spaces that promote, enhance, and support today's modes of learning and technology requirements. Our current infrastructure does not support what is needed and required for forward movement and progressive learning. One small but major example is the state moving to the SAT as being our standardized assessment tool to be used to measure growth and progress. And yet we are not even able to provide testing without significant modifications to the school day due to the stringent requirements of this exam, that far exceed those that were required of ISTEP. Currently, we have limited internet access on the south end of our building. We cannot continue to grow and be competitive within the confines of our current infrastructure. With growing emphasis on career and technical education and STEM, we must foster an environment that can support high-quality enrichment programs. Our job is to prepare students for a complex and technologically advanced global economy. We need classrooms and learning spaces that support and promote collaborative exploration. We need an infrastructure that supports creativity, critical thinking skills, and problem solving. We need modern lab spaces where sharing and teamwork can take place and flourish. We need facilities that foster innovative and student-focused practices. In addition to student needs, we need resource spaces for educators where they too can meet, grow, and learn with and from one another. With all of this being said, what we want and need at Terre Haute South is no different than the wants and needs of every Vigo County school building. Option 2 allows for new academic areas and renovation in the high schools, in addition to allowing funds to be used for every school within our district for needs as they arise and updates that are required. All of our students and schools are worth it, and we owe it to them to fight for what is needed. Our students need and deserve to walk their school hallways with a sense of pride. We appreciate your support in working toward a competitive and enriching education for each and every one of our students within our community. Thank you.
Kevin Southwood.
I stand here alone, really by myself. I'm not going to vote for this. I voted for the last tax increase. This is our most massive tax increase. And, 30% of our county is in poverty, So, we have to look at the pros and the cons of doing something. In the paper twice a year, there's a section, how many people are going to lose their homes, because they can't pay their property taxes. So whenever you vote yes for this, you aren't going to help people on the low run, poverty where I live at. You're going to maybe capture me into this next range of hard, and you are going to basically, you're waging war on the poor. Nobody out here is probably going to lose their home. I might come close, but I'm probably not going to lose my home. But there's other people that will lose their home on top of those who lose their homes. If you vote yes, you have to vote for, we have to show positives of it. We can't attack the poor and then declare that you're going to lose your home, not because of some criminal activity that you did, because you live in poverty, because the employers out here won't pay a wage, the taxes are too high, or whatever reason. But whenever you have such a large scale that live in poverty, and you declare feel-good measures. Sure, I'd like new high school. I'd like a magic carpet. But to add, to a point where if you're going to do something to society, you have to do it on a lot of different measures. If I do this, what's going to happen? If I vote yes on this, we're going to allow people that are non-property tax or non-property owners to vote yes. I don't see how that's not tax fraud. They don't have nothing in the pot except their actions can wage war on me. I did nothing to it. And I tried to do the decent thing. I try to, live a pretty much a decent life. Nothing to brag about. But I shouldn't have to be worried about You know, everything I look at, I have to look at it in a pessimistic way. I have to budget every penny that I got, because what's the next disaster is gonna befall upon me, you know? And, you know, I don't have no way of going on vacation or buying me a new vehicle or living a better life. You know, I have to get by, and I shouldn't have to think about, you know, I'm gonna lose my home if I can't pay the bill, you know? I mean, there's options to everything, you know? You could say if you can't pay your own property taxes, you could do some community service or something, you know, some manner that we really should already have on the books in order, instead of having all these people thrown out of their homes for not doing anything wrong but just being poor. You know, let them do some other things to save their homes instead of trying to make those in poverty have a more worse life, you know. It's outrageous.
Thank you. Next, we have Kelly Brentlinger, please.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Hayworth. My name is Kelly Brentlinger. I am the Assistant Director for Covered Bridge Special Education District. As you know, we are a special education co-op that supports Vigo County School Corporation. Myself and many of my colleagues are in support of a project proposed by VCSC. Specifically, we are in support of option 2 as it has the most impact for the students we serve and support. The staff at Covered Bridge is made up not only of special education teachers, specialized individuals such as SLPs, OTs, PTs, OI teachers, BLD teachers, deaf and hard of hearing teachers, school psychologists, and school social workers are also housed out of my building. These individuals travel to every building PK to 12 in the Vigo County School Corporation. All of these individuals are expected to provide therapy or support to students on a weekly or in some cases daily basis. Unfortunately, the space provided to provide these services is limited, and they are forced to be in hallways, conference rooms, or random quiet areas that they can find in a school building. Along with potential therapy spaces, option 2 could also carve out areas within a school to support students that require both sensory and social emotional needs, all of which we recognize, especially now, are important to development. Well-designed, designated spaces for all students that require these supports could be critical to not only their mental health, but also their academic advancements and peer and adult interaction. The students we support are not limited to high school age students. The cutting-edge, state-of-the-art facilities, opportunities, and advancements that Project 2 could allow would support all students, all grades, and all students, schools that Covered Bridge Special Education District is charged with supporting. Thank you for your consideration and your time.
Lori Danielson.
Good evening. I'm Lori Danielson. Lived in Vigo County for 30 years, currently a small business owner. I'm going to condense my comments that I had, but one thing I don't want to condense is to first thank all of you as trustees and board members. As I imagine the last 24 months have probably been much more than you expected, and I think I can speak for everybody here. We thank you for your continued service, your endurance, and really working hard to make a brighter future for all of us. So I too am here to support option 2 because I believe it creates the greatest promise, the greatest possibility, and the greatest performance opportunities for our kids, not just for our kids, but for our teachers, we've heard tonight, as well as for our businesses and for our community. I'm supporting option 2 because it's a well-conceived plan, and education is really the backbone of business. We need a vibrant workforce. We need to attract more talent. We need to retain more talent. And right now, our workforce, it's really in a crisis, not just in the educational sector, but throughout our region. And so we have to act where we can retain more students, skill up our workforce and attract more families and workers here. And I also support option 2 because it's not just the high school facilities that we're talking about as we've heard here tonight, but it's critical that we allow additional capital dollars going forward so that we continue to invest in our elementary schools as well as our middle schools. And option 1 just falls short. It doesn't do the job. There are many things that we can't control and things that happen to us all the time. But supporting option 2 and moving this project forward with a successful referendum in May is something we can control. And we can stimulate progress, we can create new possibilities for all of us, and we must choose to invest in our future, to work to control our future. And now's the time to make that happen. We owe it to our community, we owe it to ourselves. So again, thank you all for your service, for your support, and for your vote to move forward with option 2.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting us to speak tonight. Mostly everything I was planning to say has been said already. I do want to just briefly talk about a point of view of a parent who made choices. A few years ago, about 19 years ago, as a parent, I made a choice to move from Philadelphia to Terre Haute, Indiana. I made the choice based on research of the schools in Vigo County. I was on a 4-year plan, my husband and I. Our kids were 5 and 3. So we were looking at the elementary schools. And we chose Riley Elementary School in the south of town because of its reputation and because of the school corporation's academic reputation. As a parent now, my kids are not in Vigo County. One is in Virginia and 2 are out of town attending college. As a parent, I hope I'm making a choice actually right now to stay here. And I hope my children make a choice in the future to stay here. But as a parent of South High School, of recent graduates, my children may not make that choice because they have memories of South that you know, their memories of South are great because of the teachers, because of the administrators and the experiences that they gave them. They did the best they can. But my children have memories of a flying cockroach. We've heard about cockroaches tonight a lot, but not about flying cockroaches that look like bats. So when a flying cockroach flies into a classroom, it's disruptive. And I got a phone call that day, and it was disruptive. When students have to wear winter coats in the summer in their classroom, that's disruptive. When girls won't come home because at the end of the day with their stomach hurting because they had to hold it in because they didn't want to go to the bathroom. So I hope my children make the choice to come live here, and I know their choice will be influenced by a decision to support option 2. I know this. I have faith in this school board and the school district. I know you did your homework and will continue to do so. So please support option 2. Thank you.
Next is Terry Tebby. Is it the last name?
Terry's good.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm bad at that.
Gilligan, Dr. Hayworth, first of all, ditto. How's that? Just ditto to all that's been said here. I'd shave 28 minutes off the speech that I worked on all last night. That's hard for everybody else's hard. But let me say 3 things for you all in a thanks. You may or may not know us. Beth and I have twins at Terre Haute, South Vigo. I graduated from South Vigo. Beth was from Clay County and those folks over there, and we're still working on that one. But, you know, South Vigo has been in our family's life for many, many years. Our kids are there right now participating in after our events. We go there after we leave here. The 3 things let me thank you for. You're keeping them in school. I do appreciate that. My kids do not learn well remotely. Their grades have been 180-degree turnabout by being back in school. So thank you for your efforts there. Thank you for turning on the lights again.
can't tell you how nice it is to go to the school at nighttime and have lights on in the parking lot, lights on in the hallways. Thank you for that. We thank you for being so transparent. We thank you each. I have been in multiple meetings hosted by each one of you, countless Rotary meetings, boardroom meetings at the bank, different organizations that you have all gone out to give transparency to us. We appreciate that. We thank you for the opportunity to speak here. B, I feel, does seem to be the best reason. It's somewhat economical. It's about the kids. It's not about the dollar. We're just temporary. We're entrusted with these school buildings. They're not ours. They're not yours. They belong to us all. And it's all for the benefit of the children. So we do thank you for your diligence there. But one thing that I would ask you going forward to is look at maintenance programs going forward. If you build a new house today, in 5 years, you're going to have HVAC problems. You're going to have plumbing problems. We're not going to debate whether the buildings were built correctly back in 1971. They were built as best we could. They have lived their lives, and we appreciate that. But going forward, burnout sockets in classrooms, plumbing issues, minor things do need to be paid attention to. So I ask that you please look at the maintenance programs that we all experience right now. Good luck with the projects. We appreciate your efforts. It has not been easy. As Lori says, I don't think any of you signed on for all of this duty, and I've seen you all on TV more than any of the commentators. So to see you in live and in color is nice. And thank you for your efforts, and I'll go sit down and shut up. Thank you.
Building Wenzel.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Billy Wenzel. I am the school counselor at Fayette Elementary. I am also a mother to a third grader at Fayette, a stepdaughter at Fuquay, a son as a junior at Vigo Virtual, and recently my oldest daughter graduated from Terre Haute South. My mom taught for Vigo County School Corporation for over 20 years, and I am a proud graduate of West Vigo High School. I give you a little bit of this history, not only just to show you my pride of being an employee for the Vigo County School Corporation, but I wanted to tell you that I am familiar with all of the schools, or at least several of them, that will be affected by this referendum. I want to discuss why I feel like this referendum's option 2 is the only it's not only valuable, but essential to our community. We owe it to our children to let them see that they are worth a small tax increase. Our community has been through a lot in the last recent years. Our students are currently enduring an international pandemic. Our community has a high rate of poverty, and unfortunately, Vigo County has one of the highest rates of DCS cases in the state. Many of our students look at our schools as not only a place to receive an education, but as their only safe haven. As a counselor, I work with students that tell me about their conditions that they live in and the trauma that they have endured daily. Unfortunately, most of these students have endured more trauma in their young lives than any of us adults will ever endure in our entire life. Some of these students don't even have the luxury of having a book at home, internet, or other educational materials. School is the only place that they are introduced to these tools. We need to offer schools that have top-notch building designs, furnishings, and cutting-edge technologies that will enhance educational environments of our students. How are we going to expand our community and appeal to large corporations who may consider relocating here without updating our schools and offering these educational opportunities to our youth? If you select option 2, it will allow our high schools to receive the much updated updates that they do need, but it will also leave room in the budget for our elementary and our middle schools as well. Our buildings, all buildings, regardless of age, need updating from time to time. I think option 2 is best because it benefits all of our schools. We cannot afford to ignore our elementary and middle schools, or we will be in the same position further on down the road as we are now. I know that many people are afraid of the tax increase at this time. Money is tight for many of our families, but I do really believe that if we vote for option 2, the benefit will greatly outweigh the tax increase. I think if we updated our schools, Vigo County will be able to attract large business ventures to relocate to our community, offering commercial growth and increase our local revenue. When a large corporation considers relocating or expanding their businesses, they look at a community's housing, healthcare, and education systems. Many businesses consider these items because they want to offer their employees a community that will be conducive to their needs. I think if we invest in our schools, better opportunities will follow in our community, and hopefully our poverty rates will decrease. Traditionally, if a community has a strong educational foundation, it will trickle down and we should see more good-paying jobs, less poverty, less crime, less drug abuse, and improvement in all the other negative issues that our community is currently facing. I think we owe it to our children. I think we owe them the advantage that we can offer them. We owe them the safe schools that make them proud. We owe the teachers who have the tools that they need, and the buildings will offer the state-of-the-art learning environments. And I believe that you can never go wrong investing in education. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you today, not only as an employee of the Vigo County School Corporation, but as a mother of children who attend these schools, to please vote yes for option 2 of the referendum. Our community is counting on your vote. Let our children know that their education, their safety, and their futures do matter to us. Thank you.
Good evening, President Killian, members of the board, Superintendent Hayworth. I'm Sarah Gore, principal at Otter Creek Middle School. Tonight I'm representing the Vigo County Administrators Association. Our association has drafted a letter expressing our support of option 2, and I appreciate the opportunity to share that with you at this time. While public education has many purposes, our main purpose is ensuring that students flourish. Facilities are rarely discussed when the quality of education is called into question. However, the physical environment can significantly impact students' learning and instructors' teaching capabilities. In order to attract and retain students and citizens in Vigo County, we must improve existing facilities and introduce collaborative, transformational spaces that support students and staff. Beyond our existing traditional facilities, we must be able to collaborate with other organizations to prepare our students to contribute to workforce needs of the future. Pay option 2 allows Vigo County to do so in one cohesive project. With our referendum fund over the tax cap, we can build new academic spaces and renovate other spaces at all 3 high schools. By funding the entire project with a referendum fund, the entire project can occur at once. This leaves us, the Vigo County community, room to use debt services for other school projects as needed. A good example of what other school projects may be able to occur through debt services, if option 2 is approved, is the current renovation and addition project at Otter Creek Middle School. As the 3rd largest school in Vigo County, Otter Creek Middle School lacked certain features and spaces needed to help our students and teachers perform to the best of their abilities. Those features and spaces which are being addressed through the debt services include Otter Creek's cafeteria spaces, music facilities, and gym space. Other schools in Vigo County have needs of their own that would be able to be addressed through debt services if option 2 is approved. The Vigo County Administrators Association supports pay option 2 as the best choice for our students, teachers, and our Vigo County community. Pay option 2 allows our Vigo County community to address the significant needs of our high schools and still allows us to improve the physical environments of all our schools. Pay option 2 helps us create the greatest impact on students' learning and instructors' teaching capabilities for Vigo County's future. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you this evening, and thank you for all you do for our community.
Bill Petcher.
My name is Bill Petcher. I have taught at West Vigo High School for 44 years. Needless to say, I've seen all kinds of changes in those 44 years, that tenure. Through all that time, I think the corporation its administrators, the teachers have done a great job adapting existing facilities to meet the educational needs, to provide the quality education our kids deserve. But just my case in point, when I started in '78, my graphics lab, teach printing and graphics, was the old high school cafeteria and kitchen. They adapted that to meet our needs. I'm now currently in another room that was originally the band room that had the tiered floor. It was filled in to become then a drafting room, and now it's my print shop and graphics lab. In that process, all the electrical outlets were deadened. All the power comes from drop cords out of the ceiling. We don't know where a lot of that power comes from. I've helped countless in those years. We've had a lot of maintenance men. They don't know where to begin to look for the breakers. It could be who knows where in the building. And in the process, we've blown up equipment because we just don't know what's going on with the power. Considerable HVAC system or problems as well. We also had the opportunity to view it. I'm lucky to have one of the rooms that does have open windows, so that when we try to combat the difference in temperatures, we do open windows and watch our water main coming in, dug up 3 different times this year, trying to find out where the major leak was coming into the high school. I've seen firsthand that, yeah, these buildings have served their purpose. They are outworn. Number 2 is the only way to go. Storage as well. When you walk into my room, anything that cannot be stored outdoors, all my track equipment is sitting in my classroom. We don't have any place to put it. We have a brand new ag program coming this year, doing a fantastic job, but the only place we could find to put them is a small room in the middle school, as far away from the rest of my department as it possibly could be. We just don't have the facilities to even address our needs now, let alone in the future. So I'm obviously endorsing number 2. I appreciate everything you've done on this project, and I hope to see it move forward.
Thank you. I have Ryan Payne.
Good evening. My name is Brian Payne. I thank you very much for listening to everyone tonight. I have spent over half of my life at Terre Haute South, as a student, as a teacher, as a dean, and as a coach. I want to flash back to my first memory of elementary school when I was a student at Pimento Elementary School, down south. And the primary memory I have of that place was in the lunch line as a second grader when part of the wall literally fell in. Soon after that, within 2 or 3 years, we were at Hoosier Prairie, a brand new school. Had a wonderful experience through that. Unbelievable new school, the experience of the excitement of that as a student. I lived it. Going from the school that was literally a safety issue, things falling apart, an old decrepit school. We loved it, but it was past its time. Fast forward to high school as a student, wonderful memories of Terre Haute South as a student. Successful in sports, AP programs, academics, school spirit, all those wonderful things. Go on to when I started becoming a teacher. And the wonderful memories of being in class, challenging students like Naaman, like Caitlin, some of these great memories I have. But those have evolved as I have become a dean of students in the last 10 years or so, where I see other parts of the building in my memories of students constantly being late to class because half of the bathrooms are closed, broken. They're literally late to class because there are not enough toilets. And then we have to figure out what to do with that. Or that I'm embarrassed when our visitors come into our auditorium and there are not chairs because they're broken. It's outdated. It looks like 1975. Those memories I know I have of the last 10 years, and those are some of the memories students have of going to the South Gym lobby when it's cold outside and that cold air is pouring through those doors. They're not efficient. And then I compare that to, as a coach, when I travel around the country to different places and see these other schools when I'm there as a visitor, and I go to places like Versailles, Ohio, and I'm there working with high school kids on a sporting team, and I walk into a bathroom and the lights light up, automatic lights, and I'm like, wow, I wish we had this. Or I go into the cafeteria and the efficiency of how they move things around to clean things, yet we don't have that opportunity at Terre Haute South. So I have seen it in a variety of ways as a student, as an educator, as a dean, as a coach, and I implore you to go to with option 2. Thank you.
Lance Wolf.
Long night, right, everybody? Hey, so, name's Bryant Wolf. My wife and 3 kids are residents of Sugar Creek Township. And I have to say, just listening to everyone, first of all, thank you, board members, thank you, members of the administration. Guys, I am so reassured by everything I've heard from everyone. So I thought I might be unique in my thoughts, and it seems that I'm not so unique, but I'll still go ahead and say my piece. I have personally been critical when talking with my family, with my friends, of the prior administration and this administration for some of the financial decisions that we've seen. So that being said, I was born and raised here in the Wabash Valley. I've been an HR professional now for close to 20 years, hard to believe. I've lived and worked in a few different areas in the U.S. and within our state. Prior to moving back to the Wabash Valley, my family and I moved from Indianapolis, where I spent close to 5 years working in Carmel, Indiana, and we lived in the Franklin Township area. So you all on the administration side, you know how robust the Franklin Township school system is. Excellent facilities, but a little bit too big for our taste. So we made the decision to return home. And we're living here in Sugar Creek Township. Our kids go to Consolidated Elementary, and that's actually been an upgrade from the facilities and from the school that we had in Indianapolis. So very thankful for that. My wife and I can't tell you how pleased we've been with the entire team at Consolidated Elementary. Our kids go to school each and every day in that beautiful facility. We attended previous information sessions, and that's where a lot of my thoughts come from here today, to understand more about what we're facing as a community. We went in again with critical minds, but an open mindset as well. We wanted to make the best decision for our kids and the community. A gentleman at our session that evening a couple months ago expressed that it is not the building that makes an education great, but the quality of the teachers and the environment that influence the quality of education. I couldn't agree more with what that gentleman said, but I'll add to that. Good teachers don't want to work in rundown, outdated facilities. They want to teach in facilities that offer the best tools and functions to allow them to be the great teachers they are. Teachers can and will find those in other areas of our state, or even in nearby Paris, Illinois, where the community just built a state-of-the-art high school a few years ago. To retain the best teachers, we need to have updated and current facilities. The name of the game is attract and retain. I focus on it every day as an HR professional, so I know that that's what it's about. There are other sentiments about needing more employment opportunity and population growth in the area to support building 3 new facilities. For me, this represents a chicken versus the egg scenario. Which comes first? I can tell you as an HR professional who's worked for some large organizations, when the decision makers come into a community, a deciding factor is the quality of the schools available. Will a major corporation set roots in the Wabash Valley with the current state of our high schools? I can tell you the current schools certainly aren't selling points for our community to market and attract those large employers. new schools certainly would be. It's my belief that we need to invest in ourselves before others will. A generation prior to ours paid for these current schools. They've served us well throughout the years. We have the opportunity now to do the same. I'm concerned that proceeding with the repair option, so this is before, like when the repair and replace option, sounds like to me from what I've learned tonight, there's some more improvements even on that from what I knew earlier. So we do support option 2. Previously, we were all in to support option 3. Running a little on time?
Time's up.
Okay. Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Sam Martland. Sam Martland.
So when my daughter was a student at North, one of her favorite teachers was the one who provided blankets in the classroom. Now yesterday, when I picked up my 10th grader, we noticed 2 open windows in January. And I don't think I need to comment anymore on the state of good repair. I believe that option 2 is responsible because setting up a stable plan for the future makes it more likely that we'll do a good job for decades than if we have a series of crises. Managing from a series of crises is never good. I'm actually a historian of municipal government around the world. I could bore you to death with stories of bad choices made when managing through crises. I won't. In almost 19 years as a professor at Rose, but I don't speak for Rose in case that's not obvious, I have helped to recruit probably dozens of colleagues, professors, deans, a couple of librarians and whatnot. And of course, we can't ask them if they have kids, but we tell them about the schools anyway. And I have always enjoyed being able to say that we had such good schools, that there was such a variety of classes in high school, that they teach art and music for every grade, which wasn't the case where I was when I was a kid. I've had to add, we hope they're doing renovations or replacements of the high schools soon, but sort of in a small voice at the end of the day. And when I'm able to say to these people, it looks like we're going to renovate and add on and have great high school buildings, this will be a more fun task than it already is. My last kid will graduate before these projects really even get going. And they left elementary school years ago. But I will be happy to pay to make great schools for my neighbor's kids and my neighbor's grandkids and my neighbor's great-grandkids if they should be so lucky. Our schools were built, I believe, in the age of film strips and those hand-cranked ditto machines with the purple letters. And it seems we could at least bring them to the CD age. Maybe even the 3D printer age, although at the rate we've been going, it might have to be the flying car age by the time that we get there. Thank you, board members, for listening and thinking. Thank you, neighbors, all of you behind me, even the gentleman who doesn't agree with me, because I'm glad everybody's here. I hope that the board will choose option 2, and I hope that all the people here, especially the non-teachers and non-parents, will come out and campaign for the referendum, whatever it is, when the school board proposes it, because we're going to need a lot of braver people than me to knock on doors. We're going to need a lot of people to make speeches. We're going to need a lot of people to write letters. I'm always happy to offer a workshop in letter to the editor writing, because it's kind of a pathology with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Ramsey.
My
is Tim Ramsey. I work with Wabash Valley Youth for Christ. I speak on behalf of myself and my wife Eleanor. And what he said, we've heard a lot of good stuff. I think that the decisions, in my mind, pretty much made. But I think that the one challenge that we haven't really addressed is how to sell this to the community. When we saw the challenge of the ballot, and we see how it's phrased, knowing full well that we have no control over that, we are going to be pushing water up a hill in order to get the community to back this. I think the community wants it. I don't think they fully understand it. I want to thank the school corporation board, and I want to thank Dr. Hayworth for doing a phenomenal job of being not only transparent, but soliciting input from the community as a whole. My wife and I were sitting in the back listening to the different people coming up to this podium, and I cannot tell you how excited we are. We are empty nesters. Our kids are not coming back, except for holidays, and our house at this point is too small to handle that. So what I would like to propose is a challenge to the group of people here today, because I think you already know where we stand as a group, but I think we need to challenge the group of people here today, as this last gentleman did, is that we have to sell this to the community. Because the first sentence on that ballot tells the people that we're going to raise their taxes, and they will go to sleep after that. So our job is before us in the sense that we have to be not only persuasive, but we have to be committed that if we want to see this go through, even with a 54% success factor, if we want to see this go through, we have to take on the challenge as a community, as a room full of believers, to be able to push this in our own community in a time when people see the negative before they see the positive. They don't see it as investment sometimes, as they see it as a sacrifice. And I think if you don't mind, I would like to challenge the group here tonight to become actively involved and back our words up with our actions. I have full confidence in this board. I'm thankful for this board, and I'm thankful for the administration and the staff that I have known for many, many years, for the principals and for the leaders of the school. So I yield, and I'm totally supportive of option 2. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the list of people who've signed up for public comment. And if no one else has a desire to speak, we're going to just thank everyone for showing up tonight and being here, the time and interest you have in the future of our community and these projects. Just a reminder, this is just the first step in the legal process. The board will continue to work with the administration and the professionals that we work with to look for efficiencies, to conserve tax dollars, and also meet the educational needs of our students. At this time, Dr. Hayward, I think we're going to introduce Kristen McClellan, the vice miller.
Yeah, so board, for our crowd, we're going to get ready to pass 3 resolutions, hopefully. And once we pass those resolutions, we will be putting a notice in the mail. And then on Tuesday morning, we will need to circulate petitions. We'll need to get 525 signatures of voters or landowners in Vigo County. So we may be looking for you for those signatures, but we'll turn it over for the resolutions.
Good evening. You have 3 resolutions in your packet to consider tonight, each one separately. The first resolution is a project resolution, and the requirement is anytime a school corporation in Indiana proposes to spend more than $1 million on a school building, the board must vote on a project resolution.
Is that all? Okay. At this point, we have the project resolution has been presented, and we need a motion.
This is for option 2, correct?
Yeah, we need to clarify that.
Dr. Hayward, option 2.
This is for a specific, okay. So project resolution for option 2.
I make a motion to accept the resolution for option 2.
I'll second the motion. Mr. Irwin has made the motion, and Dr. Powers second, is that right? Yes, okay. Is there any discussion from the board?
You know, I think we talk about how we run to make change. I remember my first meeting with Dr. Hayward after I announced that I was gonna run for school board, and I think he saw me walk into the room and he didn't quite know what to expect from such a young guy, wanting to make a difference. And I knew we needed to address the high school projects. I graduated from West Vigo High School in 2010. I went on to teach math at Terre Haute North for a few years. My wife taught at Terre Haute South, Booker T. Washington, and now at West Vigo High School. We know the conditions of these buildings. I don't know if Dr. Hayworth remembers this conversation or not, but I said we need to address them, but we need to figure out something besides property taxes because I'm a farmer and this is gonna hurt. And he said, that's great, but this is the only option we have. Property taxes is the only option that we have to address our school buildings. And when it's presented as the only option, I guess that's what I gotta get behind, and I do fully support this. I think he probably could have even convinced me to support option 3 if there had been better polling data to support that as well. You know, as a farmer, I will see a larger than usual increase on this for my farm. But I do support option 2. I have 2 young children that will get to see the full benefit of this project, even more so because we're on the west side and our middle school is attached, so they'll get 3 extra years. But I do support this project, and the people that I've talked to, be it in the business community or farming community, they support it as well. And I was even told, you know, I don't see it as a tax increase, I see it as an investment in our community and investment in our students, so I will support option 2.
I agree, and I will support option 2 also because it is, you know, people in the past paid so that we had the opportunity to enjoy the facilities when they were new and when they were in their best, when they were quality. And we need to do that for the children and grandchildren that we have in the corporation. And I so appreciate all of you who spoke tonight, and I'm glad, I hope we made a recording of it all, because I want to go back over it. You had some suggestions that we really need to keep in mind, and just some fantastic points. And I also so appreciate Tim Ramsey's challenge to get out and talk, because it is not it's not an easily understood proposition, I think, and when we are mandated to have that question on the ballot where it's pretty negative, that first sentence, we've really got to educate the community. And so if each of you can talk to 10 or 20 other people, then it will be a start. But anyway, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for your support.
My brother was in town to visit some school function. I think it was at North High School choral concert where he was a guest conductor. He lives in Chicago and has been out of town for a long, long time. And you know, we both went to North, and he just looked at me and he said, "This is like the Twilight Zone. It's like a zombie high school. What is this place?" And I said, I know exactly how you feel, and I don't remember who it was that made a comment about the bathroom stalls across from the guidance office in North High School, but I had the same thought. I see the same graffiti that was there in 1997, so I think that there's a strong consensus for this, and I appreciate everyone coming out. I too am in support. Anyone else?
No other comments, I'll call for a vote.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to accept the project resolution for option 2, and a motion and a second. So, Dr. Goller?
Mrs. Lauer?
Aye.
Dr. Powers? Aye. Ms. Scott?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise? Mr. Irwin?
Aye.
Mrs. Killian?
Aye.
Mrs. Lohr?
Aye. At this time, we'll hear again from Ms. McClellan on the next preliminary determination resolution.
The next resolution you have in your packet is the preliminary determination resolution. It's required when a school corporation intends to issue bonds or enter into a lease for over a certain dollar amount. As you see, it contains the project cost, the maximum annual payment, the lease term, and other financial terms such as tax impact and principal amount.
I make the motion to accept the preliminary determination resolution.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Irwin has made a motion to accept, and Dr. Powers has seconded again. Is there any discussion on this part of the resolution?
Same feelings as before.
All right, seeing nothing else, Dr. Bullard, can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Lauer? Aye.
Dr. Powers?
Aye.
Ms. Scott?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise? Mr. Irwin?
Aye.
Mrs. Killian?
Aye.
Mrs. Lohr?
Aye.
The last resolution you have in your packet is called a reimbursement resolution. This resolution would permit the school corporation to reimburse your school corporation funds for any expenditures you have to make before the bonds are issued.
I make the motion to approve this declaration of official intent to reimburse the expenditures of the school corporation.
Second.
Okay, Mrs. Lauer has made a motion to accept the resolution, and Mr. Irwin has seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Bullard, can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Lauer?
Aye.
Dr. Powers?
Aye.
Ms. Scott?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise? Mr. Irwin?
Aye.
Mrs. Killian?
Aye.
Mrs. Lohr?
Aye. That concludes the agenda for the evening. Could I have a motion now for adjournment?
I so move motion to adjourn.
I will second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. Can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Lauer? Aye. Dr. Powers? Aye. Ms. Scott?